When I was a little kid, in my household, my mom spoke Quebecois and my dad spoke Franglish, which basically was a combination of Quebecois and American English. So he'd just kind of make it up, you know. Really, he's like, if he didn't know, if he was talking to someone in French and he didn't know a word in French, he'd just use the English word and keep right on going, like as if it was a completely separate language in and of itself. And you'd be listening, you'd be like, "Hey, that's English." And, yeah, whatever. Talk. His family grew up in where Maine meets New Brunswick, so it's the Acadian region. So he was essentially Acadian, and so hockey. When I was growing up in my household, the first memory I have of French was the television being on. My dad was an avid hockey fan. He was a hockey player as well. He and his brother were left and right wing hockey players together. They were bruisers. But I can remember the whole living room would go nuts, and I'd be like, "What just happened?" So eventually I learned that the box with the moving pictures, I mean, I was a little kid, so the box with the moving pictures was a hockey game, and I eventually learned what hockey was, and they're talking so fast when they're announcing hockey, right? Even to this day, and I can only understand, you know, I can't understand all the words that a hockey announcer is saying, but I understood "Et le but", which is the goal, right? Everybody was nuts. But musically, that was a separate thing in my household. My father played fiddle, and he played lots of instruments. But my grandfather, his father, also played fiddle. My great-grandfather also played fiddle, and my great-great-grandfather and my great-great-great-grandfather played fiddle. So I'm fortunate to be carrying the torch in that sense and playing. My father passed away when I was 11. I found him dead of a heart attack. So that was something that changed my life forever, and to this day sort of motivates me to continue playing and to better myself through music. So how language connects to music is something that is very interesting to me, because I grew up in a bilingual household. So my mother spoke French all the time. My father spoke French some of the time. And one of the things that I can relate to music is the whole idea of that ubiquitous, invisible critic, okay? Now the critic, imagine this, if you will. The person, invisible, next to you like this. Okay, so if I'm sitting here like this, okay, and I'm talking to you, there's this invisible critic. Ah, you said the wrong word. Ah, you didn't do it right. Right? Dealing with that as a French speaker, right? Because I don't speak French every day, all day. If I lived in Quebec, obviously, I probably would. But I speak English, like I am now. Mais de temps en temps, je parle français. Mais il faut que je pense, quand je parle français, d'oublier les fautes que je fais. Because the difference, or the similarity, I would say...
Can I just translate what you just said?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So you're saying that you're not speaking French. I can't remember what you said in English and in French, but there was one thing you didn't translate, that you have to forget the critic when you're speaking French, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry. Sorry, I made you lose your train of thought.
You were saying that when you speak in French, people, if there's an invisible critic, he can point out all your mistakes.
Yeah, no, so now I'll get it. Hang on a second.
It's my fault, I'm sorry.
This is important. I want to get this.
Yeah.
So. You guys aren't in a hurry, right? I'll find it. I'm gonna find it. Hang on a second.
No, that's actually part of what we do for each other.
Yeah, well, good. Thanks, because this is my time.
Absolutely, yeah, sorry about that.
Rolling with it, just kind of going with it, and just rolling with it, and not being too worried about making mistakes. And how that relates to music is growing up, and, well, hell, I'll just play an example. I'll take Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, which is a tune you've all heard before, and I'll play it just bare bones. Any of you could actually do that with a little bit of help from me right here, right now. And if we have more time, I would actually invite a volunteer up here to play that for you on this instrument right now. But for this demonstration, stylistically speaking, in the accent of the Quebecois, I'll play the tune the same way me. Oh, that's what I was going to say.
Oh, good.
So the French that I speak, when I do speak French, it's comparable to when y'all listen to somebody talk like this and you go down and leave cell. It's still English. You know what I'm talking to you boys here, listen where your ears coming out your mouth. Like, some people don't understand that, even though this person speaks English and this person speaks English, right? So, quand je parle français, je pense pas mes fautes, mais j'essaie de communiquer quand même, right? So, I'm just shortening some words, kind of rolling some of the words. It's not very proper. It's snot. Oh, my mom, she would get on me so many times for saying snot. It's not. It's not right. Stop saying snot. It isn't right. So to take that tune, the other thing that I did want to touch upon, I know I had 10 minutes, so I'm probably about 8
Yeah, and don't worry about the exact minutes. Yeah.
So, growing up in Canaan, Vermont, which is about an hour northeast of here, I grew up on the Canadian border, and I grew up on the New Hampshire border. So, I mean, just for presentation's purpose, Up there in northern New Hampshire and Pittsburgh, people talk like this. You don't get your head right, get stuck in the mud, and get pumped up in skits. In the backwoods of Vermont, Montgomery, maybe some Vermonters talk like that. You ever tried that? We're from Vermont, we do what we want. So you get the idea. It's sort of a crossroads. I grew up in Canaan, where we had the M and egg for the breakfast. Take the H off the words. Where if instead of saying ham, you say am. So, and then instead of saying eggs, you say hegs. So repeat after me. Ham and eggs.
Ham and eggs.
Ham and eggs. Pretty typical, it's a breakfast that sometimes you have. Ham and eggs. Say it again. Ham and eggs.
Ham and eggs.
Okay, but this time it's M and hegs. M and hegs. M and hegs. So the next time, it's not something that I'm poking fun of people either, because it's myself. I do it myself, from time to time. But my stepdad, John VT, who couldn't be here today, he's an older man now, and he's not in the prime of his life, and so driving is a difficult thing for him. And I don't live in Canaan anymore. I live in Newbury, Vermont, which is south of here, and so I wasn't able to get up at 4 in the morning to go pick him up. But some of you probably met him last year here, and he's definitely he's one of those living legends, in my opinion, of a representative of the Quebecois culture and music. He is the bûcheron, he lived in the logging camps and learned music from the others in those camps. Logging camps, so for those of you who don't know what that is exactly, the logging camps back in the 40s and before that, and the 50s, is when men would go out into the woods with saws, not chainsaws, buck saws, a two-person saw. And they'd just cut down trees and then load them up on sleighs, and the horses and oxen would pull them out of the woods, and they'd get them down to a landing in the wintertime. And when the rivers and lakes thawed, that's when the log drives happened. And so that, to me, is pretty, that's a huge part of the Northeast heritage. And the music that I play, when I'm playing Quebecois music and Franco-American music, which is not music that I always play, right? I have different interests. I play in a rock band. I play in a bluegrass band. I play in a Celtic band. Let's see. I'm an actor. I'm on tour right now with Rusty Louise. He's known as the Logger, right? So, but everybody comes from somewhere, and I come from Canaan, Vermont, and I'm pretty darn proud of that. So. Human being. And relate to another human being that doesn't necessarily speak your language. And you don't necessarily speak their language, but yet you can still meet in that common ground, in that middle turf, where you can communicate basic things, right? Gloria and we just had a brief conversation upstairs about an emergency situation that happened at JP, because it was on the ski slopes. A kid went down, and the kid only spoke French, being from Quebec. And in that emergency situation, even basic communication could have helped. I don't know, if the child probably didn't die, but nonetheless, even basic communication could have really helped that situation. So, what is your name? How old are you? Are your parents here? Où sont tes parents? Things like that. So keep that in mind when you're kicking yourselves because you're not the perfect French speaker. Parce que moi, je parle pas français comme ma mère. C'est ma belle sœur, elle vient de Malongrie en Paris, pas loin de Paris. Puis à chaque fois que je vais la visiter, je me demande si je parle français assez bien, mais quand même, je peux communiquer. Et puis, je vous demande d'essayer de parler le français à chaque fois que tu peux. Which means, I would ask you encourage you to speak French at every opportunity that you can. So. All right, so musically, I'll play you a piece that I've been working on. It's not my own composition, but I'm not on the road right now with Rusty Louise, the logger, but we've got a bunch of shows coming up in December. We're playing the Rutland Paramount Theater next weekend. We're doing Friday and Saturday night, and then after that, we're playing the Spruce Peak Performing Arts Center in Stowe for 3 nights, and then hey, you want to hang on to that for? We're playing in the South Burlington region, playing in the Burlington region as well, and we're going to be finishing at the Spruce Peak Performing Arts Center in Stowe on New Year's Eve. But in that show, it's a variety show, so I'm the fiddler in his band, and I'm an actor as well. I partake in some of the skits. It's really fun. He's really funny. If you've never heard of Rusty Louise, you should look it up. You can go onto the internet and type in thelogger.com. It's social satire, so if you ever heard of Jeff Foxworthy, he's like the Jeff Foxworthy meets Ace Ventura, Jim Carrey of Vermont.
It's like Queens.
He was over at my place last night for rehearsal, and here's a piece that, it's just a little blip of a tune. It'd be good for me to practice it, ça va être bien pour le pratiquer ici en avant de vous. It'd be good for me to practice it here in front of you folks. So that's not how it starts. I saw the light. It's a gospel tune. I took a loose translation of that because of experiences in my life. You know, everybody goes through struggles and whatnot, and that's just a normal part of life. But pareil comme l'aveugle, just like the blind man, je gardais mes fautes. I kept my faults. Pareil comme l'aveugle, je gardais mes fautes. No. Pareil comme l'aveugle, je tombais tout le temps. Just like the blind man, I kept falling. Right? And je gardais mes fautes. I kept all my faults because they belonged to me, I thought. Je gardais mes fautes sont à tout à moi. Et pareil comme l'aveugle, and just like the blind man, who God helped, praise God, I saw the light. Right? It's a gospel tune, and I'm not necessarily sharing religion with you right now. That's not what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about music and translation, and so how that relates to playing fiddle also. And what else did I want to talk about? Oh, I wanted to get a volunteer to come up here and to play this instrument. Oh, this very eager volunteer in the green shirt. Come on up here.